Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this free training on conflict language. Now, if you've already made it this far, I can assume that you are already disciplined, you're already grinding daily, and you're already doing the work. And yet, despite all of that, the level of growth that you're actually seeking still feels a little bit far away. And in the work that I do, I find that the issue isn't just around the thoughts that we have, but also in the way that we speak. And so there becomes a real problem in these language patterns in how they dictate the way our nervous system operates. So, in just a bit, we're going to dive into that. However, before we get there, I want to just talk about this, right? I know what you're thinking. You've built the life, you've got the career, you've got the home, you've got the money, and on paper, you've potentially made it. But internally, you're barely getting by. Decisions become hard to make. Motivation can feel forced, and it feels like we're just white knuckling it through life. And that becomes very old and becomes very old quick. And so we often find ourselves asking, well, why can't I just get clear? Why can't my mind settle? Why can't my mind rest? And this isn't just a pattern of burnout. This is something much more simple. It's a misalignment at what we call the language level. And so if you're a high performing man, then you're watching this video, then this is for you. And I've worked with dozens of different driven men, specifically business owners, executives, entrepreneurs, and honestly, on paper, they're killing it. But inside, there's this level of chaos that they can't fully get away from. And many of us, we want that peace of mind, but we don't want to lose the competitive edge. And I like to flip that around and realizing that that peace of mind is actually our competitive edge. And so this training for you is for you if you're someone who's ready to improve your internal game and be prepared for the next level of professional growth that you're getting at. Now, to dive in a little bit further, I want to introduce myself briefly. My name's Pat Smith. As you can see, this is me right here in the very middle. I am a men's high performance and mindset coach. I've been doing this for almost 3 years now. I'm a certified trainer with Dr. Joe Dispenza, as well as an Lifted certified coach. Before doing this full time, I worked in a corporate setting as a corporate outdoor salesperson for roughly 7 to 8 years. And since then, I've began my private practice, coaching over 100 high performing men. And as you can imagine, I've walked this same path myself. And I really discovered over this time working specifically with men is that one of the quickest ways to shift our mindset is to do so in the language patterns that we use daily. We speak, we talk, we think daily. And so these are some things that we can tangibly do really quick. And as an enlifted certified coach, we can start to hone in on some of these to start to change the mindset. And I know, I get it. Many of us have built our resume up to have all of these accolades. We hit the monthly targets, and no matter that, we still feel a level of disconnection. And I was someone who was there. So I experienced that same thing. And I noticed that my thoughts themselves were actually creating more of my own internal struggle. And to me, that was a wake up call to actually pay attention to what are the thoughts that are going through my head? What are the words that I'm speaking about myself? And how are they starting to create my mindset? And so when I stopped only tried to white knuckle my way through success, I was actually take a moment to look underneath the hood, to assess what was going on, and to create some level of awareness to rewire the thoughts and the words that had been holding me back for a really long time. And the moment that I started to shift my language, my mindset shifted, and the business goals that I was going after became that much easier. And this is just one of the many tools that I teach men on a daily basis is upgrading our language. And it's really simple because if we think about this, our words create our stories and our stories create our mindset and our perception, right? If we have a poor mindset, we're going to get poor amount of results. If we have more elevated mindset, a more aware style mindset, we're going to get more elevated results and we can actually see the target. But when there's all that static going on within the mind, specifically through the language patterns that we use, we disrupt our ability to take those next steps. And again, this isn't therapy. It's not another hack. This is literally just a practice of noticing and shifting those micro patterns to start to develop a better macro view of the world or changing our perception, which at the end of the day is changing and growing our mindset. And it starts with really three main components, which is our breath, our language, and awareness. And this is a really simple yet very powerful technique that can really change tons of stuff in your world. So stick with me for a minute and we will be getting into this in just a moment. But before we do, I want you to think of this as the system that leaders would use. So think of it as the leadership language system. The ability for individuals who are high level men that are high performing, driven, for them to implement some of these mental and emotional cues to start to build the resilience that's needed to actually operate from a high level, no matter the turbulence that goes on in business. Now, much of this is derived from the enlifted method as I'm a lifted coach. And what we find is that when individuals start to just make these minor tweaks, it also shifts their emotional state. And so we're not only taking a stand to take a stand to speak from a place of power, but we're actually doing so in a way that builds our mindset, that mindset that's actually needed and essential for our next level of professional development. Top myths that I hear when I introduce this type of stuff to many individuals, first and foremost, is that this mindset work is woo woo. However, if we really break it down, it's all backed by science, talking about nervous system regulation, brainwave optimization, understanding how we can use words to help with neuroplasticity to rewire the mind. So, as much as you may think it's spiritual, it's actually very science backed and has been studied a ton. So, that myth is really void and null. And the second one that often comes up is that men don't need to work on developing their mind and or their emotional states, if you will. And that to me is essentially like saying that men only need to go to the gym to work on their physical body, but mental and emotional health doesn't matter. Just like we need to train our physical body, it's up to us to also train our mind and our emotional states. Our mind is involved in literally every single thing that we do. So the fact that we would avoid that is just pushing individuals into the wrong direction if they actually want to grow to the level they say they do. And then the last one, this one, which I think is very interesting, is individuals say that the mindset work, this inner work, it either takes up too much time or it's just not for them. And it's only not for them if they're not interested in actually growing, because this is what actually helps move the needle forward. It's this idea that if we can leverage our mind and our emotional states, we can then take better action to then get better results. And if we don't do that, then we're going to keep taking the same actions and get the same results and be wondering why we aren't where we'd like to be. And in my opinion, this type of work, because it creates so much mental clarity, there's not so much confusion, indecisiveness, it actually gets us back time rather than spending time. And I know all of this sounds crazy. However, I've worked with dozens of individuals, like I said, executives, business owners, entrepreneurs, top performing business professionals. This is photographs and testimonials from real men who get real results and they get it. They understand that this stuff isn't just fluff. It's training the mind like training at the gym. Just like you would see someone who's a high level athlete like a Kobe, like a MJ, like a Tiger Woods. Just like they have personal trainers to work on their physical craft, they have specific trainers to help them on the mental side of the game, because the mental side of the game is equally and oftentimes just as important as the physical part of the game. Just like the individuals when we work with individuals in business. So if there's guys that are wanting to step in and make clearer decisions than they ever have before, be able to remain calm and confident amongst all of the turbulent times that are in business, because as we know, they are inevitable, and develop the internal tools that they didn't have before, this allows for them to step into life as a leader that's needed for the level of business growth that they're at. Now, these are just a handful of testimonies that I put up here, but we have dozens of others. And what is it exactly, before I jump into this, what is it exactly that's going to help elevate these individuals? Well, it's all about developing a greater or stronger mindset. And our mindset is developed specifically around the words that we use and the stories that have been created from those words. Now, when we think of the overarching theme of building a mindset, that is a very, very broad statement. And just like if you were to go to the gym and say you wanted to get six pack abs, that's like the big end goal, to develop a mindset or to get six pack abs. But there's so many small little tactical steps that are needed to build up to that. And so if we think about getting six pack abs, There's obviously the sleep component, the recovery component, the nutrition component, the physical component. And so it's in order for us men to actually move into moving in towards going towards that big goal, we what we need to do is we really need to start small. Start on the small tactical things that we can do. And the same thing goes with our mindset. And our mindset, again, the stories that we've told ourselves are all derived from words that we think to ourselves and words that we speak out loud. And the three ways that we can do that are through three different patterns that oftentimes sabotage individuals unconsciously. The first one is what we call soft talk. Okay, so this is the first pattern that we want to talk about. That is things like probably, maybe, try, might, should, hopefully, sorta, kinda. And I know what you're thinking. These sound harmless, but they're not. Let me just explain this real quick and take a moment to understand what is the vibe that comes off, what is the energy, what is the confidence level that comes off when someone comes in the office and says, I guess I'll try and go close some deals, or one day I'll start taking care of my mindset. Or we've heard this one, I'll probably try and go get to the gym this week sometime. And every time we do that, anytime anybody uses this language, what they do is they subtly signal uncertainty and create a lack of self trust. And that lack of self trust really kills confidence. And so, if we wouldn't be able to trust ourselves, then if we are in a high stakes business deal, what makes you think someone else is going to trust us? And so it's really important for us to understand and notice what are those filler words that are soft talk language that creates ambiguity and oftentimes leads us to not feeling sure about ourselves and pushes away being able to be strong decision makers. And so what would this sound like instead? Right? Imagine someone comes into the room and says, I am going to close a deal today, or I am training at the gym Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this week. That creates clear words with clear actions and clear confidence. And also that also alleviates tons of other mental capacity that it would otherwise normally be trying to figure out when should I get to the gym, where can I fit it in, what do I need to do. And so simply by changing these word structures, we start to change the way we're seeing things and operating. So that's step one, or pattern one, that we need to become aware of. Pattern two is what we call negations. This is things like can't, don't, won't. Right, I'll read these real quick. I don't know what to do next. I can't seem to get out of this rut. I won't speak that way again. All it does when we continuously use this type of language, negations specifically, is it's focusing and training our reticular activating system, aka the lens that we see life through, to only focus on things that we do not want. Always playing defense instead of playing offense, being on the avoidance instead of being on the action side of things. And this literally trains the brain to live in limitations. So if anyone ever comes to you, and many people will come to me and say they want to start thinking more positively, all they do is focus and think about the negative things. I always invite them to look back, and oftentimes, how often are they using negations? Ah, I don't want to screw this up. Oh, I can't ever seem to get the next promotion. And again, each time, all they do is they get themselves to feel stuck through the words that they're using. And so you could even pause this video and write this down and read it out loud. I can't seem to get out of this rut. This creates a feeling of stuckness, of low power, of like you have no option. And then when we change that to something like, I can seem to get out of this rut, it switches the lens and opens it to more possibilities that are out there. And all of this being said, if we can really understand that our language, the words that we use, that we speak, and that we think internally, they're literally like a mental GPS. And when we set it with the right intentions, we can set our mind and our perception to actually help us moving forward. And the last specific pattern that I'll go into today is called projections. This is when we are pointing our fingers outward, and it's when we give all of our power away by blaming others. Right? It's the idea of he disrespected me. We're putting an external blame instead of taking internal ownership. If we were to really just make it very simple and blunt, if we just crossed out he and put in I disrespected me, Wait, how? Well, I disrespected me by tolerating him disrespecting me. And so it's like I disrespected being by not being the person to put a guard up, to put a boundary up, to actually say something. This creates a level of internal ownership, if you will. And it really flips the lens from giving the power up to everyone else to determine how we think and feel based on what they've done. And it actually allows for us to reclaim our power. I like to think of it in the analogy of when we use projections like they did this to me, or he did this to me, or she makes me feel this way. It's almost as if you are playing the puppet to someone else and they get to pull the strings. Whereas when we stop using projections and we take actual ownership, we actually become the ones to take that back in. So this shift, especially in this pattern, if you will, it takes us out of living in a victim mentality, which is a whole separate video that I can get into. But this is taking individuals from a victim mentality into more of a self leadership role. And it's one of the quickest ways I would say to level up your mindset. Now, I know we went through all three of these briefly, but I want to go through a quick recap. Soft talk being the first pattern that can start to help rewire your mind, and that is things that breed the things like maybe, kind of, sort of, probably. All of that does is breeding uncertainty in the mind and creates weak commitments for individuals who are oftentimes high level and busy men. The next one is negations. That's the don't, can't, won't. This is, again, fixating us on all the things that we want to avoid. And then you have the third one, which is projections. And that is giving our power away up to other people by utilizing he, she, they instead of saying I. When we can start to understand this, wrap our head around this, and begin to become aware of how to maneuver through this, we build this level of self-trust within us. We build a level of confidence. We can train our nervous system to actually be safe and settled so that we can make clear decisions. We can lead with a level of grounded confidence, and the business growth and the business goals that we are going after can become that much easier. Now, we went through quite a bit in this video, and I hope that you can take whatever you did away from this and start to implement it right away. However, as we know, information and this type of stuff is just the beginning. The true work comes with implementation. And so, in order to get you to keeping this momentum going, I want to offer you a free one on one session to essentially personalize this approach to where you are in business or in life. And the goal for this mindset upgrade workshop is to simply help you identify the specific patterns that might be blocking your success and really give you some tools to take away instantly and move right away. This is way more than just getting some insights. This is really a personalized next step and a clear path forward. Whether we work together or not, this is of value to you if you do begin to implement this on your own. And the interesting thing is that I've found is most men will spend years and thousands of dollars on solutions that don't stick. And this call in itself is free, it costs nothing. And this is what other individuals pay me hundreds, if not thousands for. Now, if you've thought about investing in yourself and you aren't quite sure and you're on the fence, but you want to get a sample of what that's like, this is your chance. So imagine for just a moment leaving a call like a one on one call with myself, knowing exactly your top blind spot, what to do to stop spending less time living in your head, and actually have the real tools to apply this right away. I'll remind you, this is not a sales call. There's no pressure. There's not a script. This is simply for me to have an honest time to connect and do a deep dive with you. The only risk really involved here is you staying the same. Now, spots are limited, just so you're aware. And I want to keep this real and intimate. So I only do a couple of these per week. If this seems like something that is resonating with you and you don't want to wait till your back's up against the wall to actually start working on this, then I'll invite you to book this free implementation session today. You can click below to choose a time and fill out the short form. Show up and let's create a massive shift together. I'll see you on the inside.